I was like a little 22-year-old being like, hi, is this Jonathan Gray? Do you want to buy real estate? That is a hilarious thing to be doing. You can hit people on the wrong time, on the wrong day, in the wrong way. The answer is never really no. It's just more of like a not right now. Being comfortable with like contact sports, being okay to call people. It's kind of a key tenement of my business now. People still like that human interaction and will trust it, especially with big decisions. But you really have to stay focused. So easy to get kind of shiny object syndrome. I was literally like some little 24-year-old and in the room with like huge private equity giants. And I literally had no idea what anyone was talking about, but I had put together this deal. I didn't even know what real estate was really at the time. And I just like nodded and shook my head and I learned so much. If I could bluff my way through that, there's not a lot I can't do.
So maybe to begin with, we could start about your career in the high stakes world of New York City commercial real estate brokerage, cold calling top institutional players from day one. Could you take us back to that time and tell us what that was like for you and what you learned then that maybe shapes
definitely.
how you operate today?
That was just what can only be described as a hilarious time. I was an English major at like a liberal arts undergrad, very small, and moved to New York just kind of on a whim. I didn't have a job. I didn't know what I was going to do. At the time I was like, oh, I don't really want to get like a conventional job because I don't really want anybody to tell me what to do. So I was like, I heard about brokerage, which is obviously, or the one that I was chasing is like commission only. You're an independent contractor. So you don't really have that structure that most like corporate players do. And in order to chase that, I kind of partnered with like a small boutique firm in the city. And at the time, like I came in, it was a bunch of salespeople. I was the only woman. And I knew literally nothing about sales, nothing about commercial real estate, nothing about New York. I didn't even know how to get to my interview. That's how little I knew about New York. And I got the job. They were like, sure, like let's take a shot at it. And so they just like it was I don't like this term, but like kind of like trial by fire, but they just got me on the phones and gave me a book of business. They gave me like the downtown territory for New York City, which is pretty institutional, pretty big players, like large family offices. And they were like, go ahead, start calling people. And if I could pay money to have some of those call recordings today, I would, because it would imagine like some 22-year-old, because they gave us like what the firm was really talented at was like research info, kind of before the Zoom infos of the world were really powerful. Like this was, call it almost like a decade ago. And so getting like personal contact info, half the time it would be people's like home phone numbers. And I was like a little 22-year-old being like, hi, like, is this Jonathan Gray? Like, do you want to buy real estate? And it's like, no, like that is a hilarious thing to be doing. So it was definitely tough. There's a lot of tough people in New York City real estate in a good way. Like it's kind of a no bullshit world. Everybody knows each other, fairly incestuous, like in terms of like if this guy knows this guy, they're actually related. And I owned this building 20 years ago. So it's definitely like everybody knows each other, a little rough and tumble. And so getting into that was definitely put some hair on the chest, I would say. But it was just in the end of the day, a great experience. Like I say to people now, I'm like, you think you can hurt me? Like I did phone brokerage sales in New York City for 8 years. So it was really great. But I would say in terms of what it kind of taught me is really just like basically persistence and also just like goldfish memory. In terms of like how
so?
You can hit people on the wrong time, on the wrong day, in the wrong way, and the answer is no. The answer is never really no. It's just more of like a not right now. And that's kind of the broader lesson that I learned with that. Just taking things from a lot of different angles if it doesn't work the first time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's this commencement speech attributed to Kurt Vonnegut. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it's pretty famous, at least it was back in the day. And he suggests living in New York for a while, but then leaving before it makes you hard, or jaded or whatever he says, and then also living in California for a while, but leaving before it makes you soft. So just that balance. It sounds like you definitely cut your teeth in a competitive and, like you said, no BS market, but it probably sets you up for success in many ways. So you got like a master's degree in
Yeah, for
human
sure. A lot
psychology, it
of
sounds like.
the really great part about it is that, to your point, like human psychology is one thing that kind of set me up for business now is that being comfortable with like contact sports, like being okay to call people. It's kind of a key tenement
Mm.
of my business now. But I think a lot of people nowadays, the gut impulse is to email or text or figure it out like that. But like the value of a meeting, the value of a phone call in terms of moving business forward, getting things done more quickly is just crazy. And so just not cold calling, but warmish cold calling, is just really powerful, and I think it's something that's kind of been lost.
You identified a huge blind spot for commercial real estate owners who are missing out both on available technologies and valuable rebates. Why do you think this gap exists, and how does your company Source Forward bridge it?
My background is in commercial real estate. My family, owns and operates multifamily buildings in Ohio, and I just kinda, like, grew up around it, and I know that property management is just an absolute headache. There's a billion things going on. You're working in aging infrastructure by and large, both in New York City and everywhere else. A lot of our housing stock and building stock wasn't really meant to last for as long as we've really extended the natural life cycle of it. And so because of that, there's so much on property managers' plates. And so now as we kind of get into energy transition, climate change, where energy is just at like such a forefront and sustainability is, there's not time to look into these technologies. There's not time to look into the incentives. And like there's so many incredible, well-meaning contractors, technologies, and very generous incentives, from the state, government, utilities, whatever the body may be. But like, I know real estate, I know owners, and like the intricacies, the bureaucracies within those, just the like time suck, kind of going back to the AI thing, is like so huge that people can't really take advantage of it. And so, what we're really trying to do within Source Forward is kind of use, as we've talked about at the beginning of this conversation, use all the time savings you get from AI, use all the like computation efficiencies for all the data, for all the buildings and all the programs, the technologies, the quotes, that kind of thing. Use AI to kind of digest that so you can give something on a silver platter to a real estate owner that they can accept or not accept. Kind of what we're talking about with their contract negotiations going on while you're sleeping. We're doing that for, at the moment, every building in New York. And then by the time we actually get to the owner, presenting them with like something actionable and, more importantly, something profitable to them. So we kind of identify this huge hole just through knowing how the landscape of all these technologies and programs, and then also knowing the landscape of property management.
Pivoting a little bit for those in the audience who run their own company, what's from a founder perspective, what's one decision or experiment that failed but taught you something essential about your business or yourself?
One thing that I think I regret, I don't know if I'd directly call it a failure, but one thing that's been kind of important, I'd say we started the company about 2 years ago, and a year ago we got distracted. So there was like a really great like we always had this like broader kind of data aggregation, AI, automatic quoting, kind of scalable game plan to like bring owners profitability, very clearly. And we honestly just got sidetracked. There's this thing called like shiny object syndrome. And I have, yeah, we have a small team, like by virtue of all the technologies accessible to us now, like you can really like have a huge impact with a 4 or 5 person team. But you really have to stay focused. And I think over the past year, we've rectified it in the past like 2 or 3 months. But over the past year, we were like, we could do batteries in Texas. Oh, wait, we've got to do DCFCs in New York. No, wait, now that's in Florida. Like, it's so easy and you only have so many like man hours. So I would recommend against falling away from the core. So like obviously you need to make money, you got to close deals, but it's so easy to get kind of shiny object syndrome, especially in the ESG technology space and incentive space. There's so much going on. So that would probably be.
How did you like get all your ducks in a row, so to speak?
I honestly, I have to credit it with my partner. So my partner has his name is Rob Lucars, and he's worked in, so I was the real estate background, he's the technology background. And he maybe called me like 2 months ago and he was like, my head's buzzing, bees all around. And he's like, listen, this was a huge L for us. We have completely gotten away from what we wanted to do, and this needs to get done immediately. And obviously I was like kind of like butthurt. I was like, "Ugh, okay." Felt like it was a criticism, but then I was like, he's 1000% right. And then we were all kind of working from home at the time, like really disjointed, like it's hard to get, mission critical with stuff as everyone's kind of separated. And so we were like, okay, everybody has to be in office every single day together, pulling 12-hour days, just like really put the elbow grease in. And we like, I would say in the past, especially the past month, but the past 2 months, like the whole summer, like have gone eons faster. Getting to like our core business model, what we really want to achieve, that kind of thing. So it's been great, but sometimes you need a little kick in the
Nice.
ass. Uh, yeah, for sure.
Always. Um, can you talk about scaling? It sounds like that was a unique challenge, relative to all the other challenges that a founder faces. But scaling is, I think, a two-pronged challenge because one, you're prospecting and trying to grow, but then there's new challenges as you succeed at your goals. So it's like hitting two moving targets at once, if you will. That's the way I look at it. But
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our scaling, fortunately, we've taken on a few really, really core team members between sales and then on the engineering side. And we were fortunate, like we're all like in New York City professionals, just like kind of pulling in our networks naturally. And then a lot of our scaling has been from just really well developed, uh, like AI scrapers, large language models, that kind of thing. Like a lot of what we do on the kind of data and tech side has been a small but mighty team with the help of current technologies, and then just hiring, training as many salespeople as we can, just to kind of get the training process, get people on the phones. Sales are always kind of a revolving door by nature of the beast. And so on that end, it's really just about like managing time to get people in the door, get people trained up, that kind of thing. And then our other end of scaling is really in our partnerships. So we work a bunch with utilities, we work a bunch with other consulting firms, engineers, as well as all of our like contractor channel partners who actually install the work or provide the
mm,
technology. And so that has been really great, but those are more so in the like relationship part of the business. But scaling, it just takes time.
it sounds like you were kind of thrown into the deep end at 22 or however old you said you were when you first started in commercial real estate. And you've said that nothing should feel off limits, from chasing huge clients to proposing bold new partnerships. What would you say is like your biggest success?
I guess I have two. One to provide a little color. But basically, a when I was about 24, I had called some big real estate owner and I was like, "Oh, like, can I come to your office?" Like, had no business doing that. I had no idea that this man was like some multi-billionaire real estate developer in New York City. And I went to his office and he gave me what ended up being the largest like single transaction in like the history of Brooklyn at the time. There might be a new one. But it was like a little over $1 billion deal, and I was literally like some little 24-year-old and in the room with like, I don't know, some like huge private equity giants. And I literally had no idea what anyone was talking about, but I had put together this deal. I didn't even know what real estate was really at the time. And I just like nodded and shook my head and I learned so much. And I got to put my name on it. And ever since then, I was like, okay, if I could bluff my way through that, there's not a lot I can't do. And so I would say now in this more recent endeavor, despite being in the industry about 2 years, I was selected to lead a decarbonization task force with really, really talented members of the industry in sustainability between all the utilities, all the contractors, technology providers, that kind of thing. So I've been working with a group of just really talented people to make a white paper aimed at NYSERDA to kind of come to them with a problem and a solution for how they can better implement getting out these incentives. And so I didn't think that I would be raising my hand for something like that a year ago. And so we're kind of finishing up now, and it's definitely been a punching above my weight endeavor for me.
Yeah. Is that aiming towards like the UN's 17's sustainability development goals?
It's no, it's more so aimed at so there's a group called Advanced Energy Group who partners with the utilities in order to run kind of decarbonization plans and getting people together. And so it's more so what we are aimed at is solving the issue of what is a key tenement to source forward anyway, but getting building owners to actually use the incentives that are available in order to hit the city's climate goals, the state's climate goals, that kind of thing. And so that's really more so. It's very much more local. Uh,
Okay. Well, with the UN, the World Trade Center there in New York, maybe there's some potential overlap in the future.
yeah, no, that's definitely eventually the goal. We're trying to really cut our teeth in New York City to get like full proof of concept and kind of some of the best in class partners under our belt. And then talking about scalability going into both domestic and international markets where we could be impactful as well. So I think that that's when it will be more of a central focus.
You've done a lot already, but what's one big impact or what's your like moonshot that you'd love to see over the next in your near future?
Kind of twofold. One selfish, one unselfish. I guess I'll lead with the unselfish. I really do feel strongly about like CO2 reduction in New York City meeting its like carbon goals. I think it's a really valiant effort. I think we pumped hundreds of millions of dollars into it, if not billions at this point. And I'd like to be a really like impactful participant in that, especially just being in this kind of niche position of like the intersection between real estate and sustainability. Like that is really something that I want to achieve for the city and for the state, for the world, you know. I guess the more selfish or maybe ambitious part is I'd really like Source Forward to be kind of the trusted voice on energy solutions for the built environment. So, you know, when you have like these household names of like who do you go to? I'd really like that to be us. I think we can. I think we have the resources and the expertise. I think it's just about making that happen. You know, you gotta to be a household name, you've got
Hmm.
to be the best so many times, never the worst, and also just be in front of people. So that's like a huge goal of mine, both in New York
Mhm.
and outside of New York.
What's a green tech trend you're most excited about in the near future?
Right now, it's still happening, but I think just the trend of more and more buildings kind of using building data, big building data to curb their emissions. Like, obviously, I didn't just invent BMS, but with AI and with all like the kind of analytics and computing power now, I think that there's just a huge trend of it used to just be like A class players, really like huge industrial, huge hospitality who could really like track their emissions, track what they're doing, see what's happening in the buildings. That's changing. It can really be anyone. And I think we're just going to what I'm really excited about is kind of getting a grasp on like the broader energy output of like these buildings, you know, like living and breathing. So that's really through metering controls in the buildings, retrofits, that kind of thing. So it's I don't know if it's a trend, but I think it's something that is happening in a big way that might not be as sexy as some of like the newer technologies, but is so hugely important.
Mm. What's one thing the average real estate owner totally underestimates?
How much energy is going to cost? I think with the energy transition coming through, every year, like Con Ed, National Grid, they're applying for higher and higher increases for delivery, for KWs. I think, and not to mention, as we talked about a bunch today, like between AI and data centers, it is a huge suck on the grid, and on just like energy demand is out of this world. And it's gonna you really need to
Mm,
do things now because energy is going up. I don't know if people have really grasped
mm,
that. I think maybe in some respects, but not to the extent that it will.
seems that way. Favorite New York City neighborhood
For
for
inspiration.
inspiration?
That's a really good one. My favorite place to get inspired is I live very close to the West Side Highway, and as you walk up and down, you can see like the full vantage point of you can see down to the World Trade Center, up to Hudson Yards. You can see the Empire State Building. I think that seeing all like the breadth of the kind of Manhattan skyline and all the like, key buildings within
Mhm.
it just inspires me a lot. I feel very excited whenever I'm out there. So it's not really a neighborhood, but I'd say the West Side Highway. Yeah.
That'll do. Um, where can people get in touch with you and follow along with what you're doing?
Source Forward LinkedIn page, sourceforward.org, our website, my LinkedIn page as well, Sarah Mae Selnick. And hopefully, some more opportunities like this will certainly be posting and keeping everyone updated with the projects we're doing, the papers we're putting out, that kind of stuff.